It's a Minimalist Monday edition of Optimal Finance Daily, episode 251, Minimal Privilege by Patrick Rhone with BecomingMinimalist.com. And I am your host and narrator, Dan. This is, of course, where I read to you from some of the best personal finance blogs on the planet. And today's post is from a guest author on Joshua Becker's site, Becoming Minimalist, Patrick Rhone. But before we get into today's post, big thanks to Jason Hartman of the Creating Wealth podcast for his help in supporting this show. You can learn a new slant on investing and hear experts in the field by checking out his site and his podcast. Come by oldpodcast.com/wealth to learn more. Now, a little bit more about today's guest author, Patrick Rhone. He's an author, essayist, technology consultant, husband, and father living in St. Paul, Minnesota. He was recently featured in the film Minimalism, a documentary about the important things by the minimalists. And that film is streaming on Netflix if you want to check it out. But for now, let's hear his post as we optimize your life. Minimal Privilege by Patrick Rhone with BecomingMinimalist.com. $18,685. I'll never forget that dollar number. The year was 2003. I had gotten laid off from my job at a software company when they decided to close the local office. I was on vacation when it happened. There was no warning. On the way home, driving back, I got a call from the president of the company, and he gave me the news. Said it was effective immediately, but I'd received some severance. He said it was a hard decision, and he wished me the best. I was a full-time single dad to 2 boys. I had a home, a minivan, and all of the normal costs of supporting a family of 3. Still, I had a plan. Before the layoff, to make ends meet, I had been doing some technology consulting on the side. I had a handful of clients and enjoyed helping them a lot. They seemed to appreciate me and were recommending me to others. It had long been a dream of mine to build my own business, work for myself, and do consulting full-time. So when I found my paycheck job gone literally overnight, I took it as a sign. I had the severance, about 6 weeks' pay, and a little bit of savings. I gave myself a deadline to see if I could chase that dream. I marked it on the calendar. I had exactly 1 year to stick it out and give it a shot, to see if I could build something that could feed my sons and I and keep a roof over our head. Only after that year, giving it all I had, would I then try to find another job. That dollar number above is the gross total of what I made, not the net, not after taxes. That was it. Between August 2003 and August 2004, that was my gross income for a family of 3. That's how I became a minimalist. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't a grand statement on our consumerist culture and not wanting to run forever on the capitalist hamster wheel. I didn't have credit cards because my credit was ruined by financial misdoings during my marriage. I didn't want them either, but not for lofty reasons. Mainly because I was now very wary of them. It wasn't my love of simplicity and rejection of the tyranny of choice. I was broke and hungry and scared out of my wits that the heat would get turned off, our home taken away, the car repossessed, and I'd lose my sons because I couldn't take care of them. To be honest, I'm still not quite sure how we survived without any of that happening. That year is still very much a blur. I'm sure I blocked a lot of it out. I know there were many days I only had 1 meal in order to make sure my sons had 3. They got free breakfast and lunch at school, so I only had to worry about having enough money for dinner. I know there were times when friends would invite us over for dinner without saying they knew how bad I was struggling to make ends meet. I became a ninja at cherry-picking sales at the grocery store and coupon cutting. I learned that if you call phone and electricity companies before your bill is overdue and explain your situation, they're more likely and able to work with you to figure something out than if you do so after it's due. I can't explain how the mortgage got paid. It did, somehow. Magic, perhaps. We made it through. Exactly 1 day after my 1-year deadline, I had 2 job offers immediately, both for very good money, one with better benefits. I took that one. Even though I then had a steady job and more than enough money to go back to business as usual, I had learned during that hard year how to live on very little. It had taught me a valuable lesson, the difference between want and need. And while I now could afford to eat 3 meals a day like my sons, while we were no longer living in poverty, I had no desire or reason to spend money on anything we didn't need or that didn't add true value to our lives. That same ethos remains with me today. So why am I telling you all this? Well, I think we who consider ourselves minimalist, or those who are striving to be, need to be mindful of how we talk about it. We need to keep in mind that the very fact that you have the power to choose and decide what is enough for you and live with less means you are in a position of privilege. To many of us, choosing to live simply is to others living in poverty, and they may not have a choice. We should be mindful of this when we talk about it to others because many times we come off sounding like elitist jerks. Look, I get it. You're happy about how a choice to live with less has made your life less stressful. You're proud of the money you've saved, or how you live debt-free. You've made a life where you're sure everything you own has value, and the life you live is full of meaning, and you want to share that with as many people as you can. You're excited. It's okay. You have reason to be. I'm simply trying to say there should be a level of understanding of what a privilege it is to be able to have such a life when we talk about it. The desire should be to help others consider such choices, if they have the ability, for themselves, and to have a compassion for those without. We should live our lives in such a way that strives to provide others with the same opportunity to enjoy such privilege. You just listened to the post titled Minimal Privilege by Patrick Rhone with BecomingMinimalist.com, and he's also the author of Enough, which Joshua Becker of Becoming Minimalist has referenced multiple times. So to find that book and more about Patrick, check out PatrickRhone.com. That's Patrick, RHONE.com, and that will be linked to from this episode's description and from oldpodcast.com. And once again, to learn a new slant on investment and for some more great personal finance content, come by oldpodcast.com/wealth and check out the Creating Wealth podcast with Jason Hartman. He's got some new approaches and exciting techniques to protect your money while building passive income. He's a self-made millionaire with over 20 years of financial experience, and he brings on a wide variety of guests who share their wisdom and talk with him about their experiences. Some of those include Steve Forbes, Jenny Craig, Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and many more. You can find the Creating Wealth podcast in your favorite podcast app and come by oldpodcast.com/wealth to learn more. And Jason Hartman is helping us out, so it would be great if you could return the favor and visit him online too. Again, visit oldpodcast.com/wealth for more info about Jason and to optimize your finances even more. And that's it for today's episode. Have a great start to your week, everybody. I'm going to see you again tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this podcast, but also Optimal Living Daily, the show where I read to you from even more blogs covering finance, productivity, minimalism, personal development, and more from incredible bloggers like Derek Sivers, Zen Habits, Mark and Angel, The Minimalists, and all the ones you hear on this show too. So if you enjoyed today's episode and like taking amazing blogs on the go, come on over to Optimal Living Daily and subscribe to that one too. And together, we'll start optimizing your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Finance Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.